Alrighty, so welcome to the Crackle Q&A for 2025's January. That was a total disaster and I don't care. I'm sick, my voice feels like shit, and I recorded this Q&A already, and this is the second time. If you saw my Guts and Black Powder video, you know that I had a crackling audio issue. It corrupted the entire file and gave me lots of trouble. I finally managed to delete some stuff and get that open, and it turns out that the crackling is just like a thing that happens now with my editor, which is a real pain in the ass. I'm trying to fix it, and I was stupid and didn't check if it was crackling last time, and my entire audio track for the previous Q&A recording is unusable, so I'm doing it again. Yay! Anyways, I guess I'm sort of going to speedrun. The first question is from a guy, Lightning something, I think. They sent me 8 bajillion questions. Look at them all. There's so many. The reaction last time was better. I don't care. Meow, I agree. Anyways, obviously, I'm not going to be answering all of these questions. So, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I'm gonna pick 1 or 2, and the answer's 1. I don't know what that means. I don't care, but that's the answer. Last time around, I answered the first question, and if you're dying to know what my favorite vegetable is, the answer is I don't really have one, but broccoli is pretty cool, and I don't understand why it's such like a big thing that broccoli sucks, because that's wrong. Anyways, moving on. Second question, Pixeler Plus, who says, do you like your channel memes? The Kill 8 Snowmans and something about Bowl mainly, and were there any channel memes you wanted to be a thing but didn't? Also, I'm waiting for your video on how to write a hate comment correctly, and then they thanked me for making me videos. You're welcome. Now, as for the channel memes, yeah, I actually do like my channel memes, despite what a few people in the comments will probably think and what a lot of people in the comments probably hope. I agree with those people that are upset about the channel memes, especially when they overtake the comment section in videos that have nothing to do with it. Like if I post a video about like Helldivers and then it's all Snowmans and all the people who are writing actual comments are getting buried, that sucks. Same thing with like Guts and Black Powder, where I knew there was a lot of Snowman's comments in there and there were people actually trying to talk about the game and talk about my review, and they just sort of couldn't because it was all getting buried. And I agree, that sucks. But that being said, even if that does suck, I do find them still funny. I like the 8 Snowmans meme. I don't really understand the bowl one. I'm surprised that that caught on as much as it did. I know that it sort of originated from the Souls RNG video. Then it got a lot of traction from the Daily Does Is Stupid, where the whoops, I just spilled my bowl guy came from. And I know that's where it sort of took off. And I'm surprised it's still around because I don't really think that one's very that funny. I don't really get it. I know people like it, so I still lean into it, but yeah, I don't understand. It's like that one goes over my head. I don't think that that was like a thing that we were gonna fix on for so long, but I guess so. Some of the things I can see coming, like B-Game, Kill Trade, the 8 Snowmans, like those are things that I did to make happen, and then there are other ones that are just confusing. As for ones that didn't take off that I wish had, I'm sure there are a whole lot that I think about and then just sort of forget about, but I think the one that I saw in the comments of this comment section, actually, I didn't have the comment, but it's definitely there, is the deflecting dickhead one from the Jedi Survivor playthrough. That one was pretty funny. I still have the graphic, I think, so if I do, I'll probably throw it up on screen, but that one was funny. I enjoyed that one, and that'll probably make a comeback at some point. The next question is from Joggler Toggler, and they say, Eclipse, if you could profit off of any videos you make, it doesn't have to be Roblox, what type of content would you make? Would you review modern titles? Also, what would you do after being so successful? A movie project like Markiplier, or maybe a series? Maybe retire? Well, I can tell you one thing. I certainly would not be making a movie, because that is way out of my wheelhouse, nor do I really have any interest in doing that. I'm a creative in the sense that I like making things, but a movie, not really. That seems like too large of a scope for something that I would ever want to do. I'm more than content with the sort of low-key stuff that I make now. Now, that being said, what kind of content would I make if I didn't have to do Roblox? Well, I've talked about this a lot, and I sort of already do it, so it would probably just be a lower scale of a lot of the stuff that I already do now. Every once in a while, you'll see a video that comes out on my channel that is so out of left field, it makes no sense, and no one saw it coming. Things like my Battlefront 2 retrospective, or the Helldivers 2 review, the Halo review, stuff like that. Those are things that I am passionate about, and that's why I still go out of my way to make those videos, because if not, I think I'd just go insane playing Roblox all the time. And so if I were to not have to do Roblox anymore, it would probably be just stuff like that at a relatively random pace as it is right now. As for retiring, I don't think I'd ever do that, and I've talked about that in a different Q&A because I like what I do, I like interacting with my community, and YouTube sort of gives me purpose when it comes to my life and gives me something to do, so I'm not just sort of wasting away. So even if I didn't have to do it in order to keep myself alive, I almost certainly still would to some capacity, and I wouldn't just outright quit completely. Obviously, that's subject to change, and things in my life could change that, but as of right now, that's how I feel. The next question is from YMCA The Guy, and they say, I really love all the live/IRL stuff you do and would love to see you do more. Do you have any more stuff like that planned? And I want to know if you like doing that type of stuff more than your normal videos. Well, I can tell you there's not really any more IRL stuff planned because, number one, I don't really think anybody's going to watch it, and number two, because I don't have any plans for it. The thing about IRL stuff is that I need to have a really good idea of exactly what I'm doing. I don't really think I can just go out and wing it, because if I do and it doesn't work out, then it's a big ol' waste of time. If I just wing it on like a game or something, I can scrap it and whatever, but if I go to do it in real life, I can cause a real life mess of things and then have to clean up all that nonsense, and I can't be bothered. There's also the factor of, like I said, I don't really think too many people would watch it. The Snowmans video had the backing of the biggest meme on my channel, as well as the biggest game on Roblox, or one of the biggest games. So considering that, it's not that hugely surprising that a whole bunch of people watched it, because they're like, what the fuck is this idiot Roblox guy doing talking about 8 Snowmans again? But that's one of those things that I would sort of compare to like my first Subnautica video and stuff like that, where when you do something the first time, it usually does pretty well, and then once people actually know what it is, then it sort of tanks and tanks and tanks, and that's where I could see IRL stuff going. So when you compare all of those things together, yeah, I don't really have any plans to do stuff like that, and I probably will not. This next question was interesting. I say was because I already fucking answered it. Yeah, okay, whatever, I'll answer it again. Anyways, it's from Kiddo Run to and whatever, I can't pronounce his name. They say, do you think Roblox is a good platform? And they also said something about what would the best game to be if I could snap my fingers and just make a game. As for Roblox being a good platform, I think this is a hard question to answer because I think it's a fantastic platform in theory, but a sort of horrible one in practice. In theory, Roblox is a platform where you can get tons of young kids into game development and teach them all about game design philosophy and all this other stuff, and so when they actually get into the industry when they're older, they already have a whole lot of experience with this stuff. Now, in practice, unfortunately, that's not really what happens, and what actually happens is kids cobble together cash grab games, and giant corporations and conglomerates come in and buy up the games that start doing well, turn them into even bigger cash grabs, and then profit. That's what Roblox has turned into. It's a platform of cash grabs and how best to exploit children for money, as well as tricking children into thinking that this stuff is normal for the gaming industry, and that is horrible. Absolutely horrible, because now these kids are going to grow up thinking this stuff is normal and forgive it in the modern day industry, and that's really, really bad news. There's people like me fighting on the front lines to try to get this shit out of our games, and then there's people like the Roblox children that are coming up and saying, I don't understand where the problem is. Seems fine because this is the stuff I grew up with, and that's really bad. Now, as for a game that I could just snap my fingers and create, I think if I could do that, I'd probably still make an alternative to YBA all these years later. And the reason I do that is because I still think that the people on my channel and the people that like were interested in me were still looking for something like that, and they just never got it. And sure, YBA's been making a bunch of strides in terms of making their game better. But that being said, I still think that the charm is mostly gone with that game, as well as a lot of the fun factor, as the game sort of becomes sterile, and it almost suffers a little bit of the same problem that I had with TCA a while back, where they nerf things and nerf things and nerf things, and a lot of the things that were fun before aren't fun anymore, and it leads to a more balanced game, but does it lead to a more fun game? That's a difficult question to grasp, and it's something that I've been questioning myself on and how I feel about for the last 5 years. Because if you go back to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, we need balance, everything's broken, this is horrible, yada, yada, yada. And that persisted for like 3 or 4 years after the fact. But recent Eclipse is more like, I think we need more random and more bullshit in the game, because that actually makes it interesting and entertaining. And if the game is just strictly a competitively balanced game, then you don't really get a very fun game, at least in my opinion. But that's all hypotheticals. Sushi Dealer 14 asks, what game were you extremely hyped about but ended up being severely disappointed when it was released? And also, even though you didn't like horror games, did you have a horror game that you really enjoyed? As for the first one, this is obviously a very easy question to answer, with it a very obvious answer, and that is Battlefield 2042. I was super excited for this game to come out, and it came out, and it was one of the most broken games that I've ever played in my entire life. It was completely unfinished and an embarrassment to the studio. That being said, even though I felt all of those things because I just really wanted to play a new Battlefield, I played the shit out of it anyway and still had fun with the game. There were a lot of systems and things in place that I really enjoyed, like the specialists and the new customization for vehicles, as well as the vehicle menu that let you pick from different vehicles on different maps and gave a lot more player choice in the matter. Now obviously, a lot of that player choice has been unfortunately rolled back because of crybabies, so like specialists are neutered compared to how they once were, and vehicles have been removed from several maps, which I actually do think is a very good change. But for the most part, the game doesn't really resemble the game that I played before, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. But the sleeper pick for this question would probably actually be Ghost Recon Breakpoint. For those who may not know, this is actually the sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which was on the channel maybe like a year ago. It wasn't that long. But Wildlands is one of my top games of all time, to be perfectly honest. I really enjoyed that game. The grounded atmosphere of everything, the country of Bolivia was super interesting to explore, and while it's not like a super in-depth game, it's still really fun to play, and I just enjoyed it a lot. On top of that, a little while after release, they added the Ghost War PvP mode, and this is up there as one of my favorite PvP modes of all time. It's a class-based PvP mode that has so many different unique operators with different weapons and skill sets available to them, and I loved the restrictions of, like, if you're running a certain player who has really good abilities, then they're gonna have weaker weapons, and I just loved that game mode. Unfortunately, Ghost Recon Breakpoint took everything we knew and threw it into the trash, and that fucking sucks. Breakpoint was like, oh, you liked your grounded, more realistic game? Well, fuck you. Here's a Ubisoft looter shooter with giant robots and like, guys, what the fuck? What is this? It's unfathomable to me how they took such a great blueprint from the first game and just totally dumpstered it in the second one. And it's even more heartbreaking because that super unique PvP mode with those cool classes and restrictions and stuff thrown out the window. And it's funny because I probably feel the way about Breakpoint PvP that a lot of people felt about Battlefield, which is ironic. It felt like the restrictions and limitations that were placed in the original Ghost War PvP mode were there for a reason and made the game way better. But in the sequel, when they took all those restrictions away and everyone was carrying around sniper rifles and assault rifles on the same loadout and everybody had like the same abilities, it was just lame. But at the end of the day, Breakpoint was just a massive disappointment, and I didn't even finish it when it came out because I was so bummed. Now, as for the second question, not a huge horror game guy, still not, barely ever play him. Pressure was probably the closest we've gotten to one that I enjoyed, and even then, like, it gets high marks for being an impressive game, but did I like it? Would I ever go back? No, absolutely not. Next question is from Cakels. Cake is, I don't know. They say, I'm curious whether you're going to return to Deepwoken for a video, either reviewing or doing a story video on the new world event update. I personally really enjoyed the Deepwoken series you had for a while, so it would be cool to see another video using that format. Either way, thanks for the peak content. Deepwoken. Well, I feel like I say this every time, but I am kind of Deepwokened out, and I don't really want to play it right now. A big reason, also, why I don't want to play it right now is because, well, I get a lot of comments from people who are like, hey, Eclipse, when are you going to shit on the latest Deepwoken thing? Eclipse, the community needs you, Eclipse. We need you in order to tell the developers how bad this is. And all I have to say to those people is, if you still need me to be your sort of community ambassador, that's the game's fault, not my responsibility. And as much as I would love to help you, like, I can't be the harbinger of constant change. Somebody has to step up to the plate and be me, please. I don't play this game all the time. I haven't even played this game in like a couple months. I'm not a huge Deepwoken person. I think it's a cool game. I think it's fun to play, but if you need somebody to constantly be like voicing community concerns because it's such a dumpster fire, I'm not the guy. I've done the most I can by giving my open letter to the developers in my, what is it, like the Sour Meat Hollow or whatever, the whole Ignition Union origin. That was the most that I can do. I can't do any more than that. I put it in plain and simple terms. Devs, listen to the players. I can't be doing this all the time. And that was it. The Blue Assassin says, hey Eclipse, I was super surprised to see you cover Helldivers 2, considering it's one of the most played games, and frankly, I just didn't expect it from you. My questions are, have you played Helldivers more after the video, and if so, what's your favorite faction to fight? Thanks for your entertaining videos, and keep it up. Well, you've probably seen the Daily Dose of Stupid on the Helldivers stuff recently, so you'll know that yes, I've continued to play the game because I think it's fun, and I enjoy it, especially playing with friends. So with that said, what's my favorite faction to fight? I don't really have one, to be perfectly honest. It used to be the bots for sure, because I just enjoyed fighting them the most, but the more I've experienced and played and enjoyed all the different factions to fight, I don't really think there is one. I sort of just play the game, I think, the way it was intended to be played, which is brainlessly following around the major orders to wherever I'm technically needed the most. After all, big number go burr, and I know enough about the game to know that it's based on the population of the amount of people playing on a planet to liberate a planet, so going anywhere else is kind of pointless and a waste of time for the Galactic War as a whole. Not that that matters, considering the Galactic War is rigged, but, you know, that's a conversation for another day. Regardless, if I had to pick a favorite, it probably would be the bots, because I just love being able to shoot their dropships down and watch them crash to the floor as all of the reinforcements go flying out of them. I think that's super satisfying and probably the most fun thing to do in the entire game. Next question is from NoobPlays2655, and this is funny because it says, what's your favorite game you played as a kid? Were you a Roblox kid before you started YouTube, or just found YBA a ton of fun back then? And I love this comment because it assumes that YBA has just like been around forever. It hasn't. This game only started to exist in very late 2019, early 2020, and I started playing it in relatively early 2020. And at that point, I would have been an adult already. I'm 24 now. I would have been, 19 back then? So, yeah, I wasn't playing YBA as a kid because it literally didn't exist when I was a kid. Anyways, that said, I was a Roblox kid. I mostly just played shitty obbies, shitty shooting games, and shitty tycoon games for the most part. As for my favorite games that I played as a kid, they would definitely probably be a toss-up between Battlefield 2 and the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. Both of these games are relatively similar, and I also played the absolute crap out of them. In terms of Battlefield 2, it obviously ignited my love for the Battlefield series, something that has long since persisted all the way up until current day. And when it comes to Battlefront 2, that sort of ignited my love for Star Wars, and that's also something that I've persisted with all the way up until modern day. So those games are definitely my two that I'd pick for that. Now, as for the final question of the day, Linhe says, can you get Perm Dragon IRL now? They stole my dragon!